Are we
Don't
live?
blink.
Okay. We'll go to the pre-show, everybody. If you're watching
All
this
right.
on video later, or you're watching us live, thank you very much for joining us. This is the
Hey.
Topic of Trek. We're going to get started soon.
Hey, all this technology, streaming, we're in the future, and we're still taking pictures like we were back in the 1900s. Don't move.
Yeah.
That's Clinton. No, that's Craig. That's Clinton.
Hey there.
No, I'm the ghost of Clinton.
A ghost of Christmas Clinton.
Clark, the ghost of Star Trek Past.
Yeah, if you're wondering, the reason I look like this is because
He died 3 weeks ago.
and that's the shocking twist. No, the green screen that's great for everything else. Apparently, the software we use to do this show, it doesn't like it, and so I had to mess around with the controls, and it's looking weird.
Well, everybody on the show is looking weird, if you ask me.
I was gonna say, you're not alone.
You're in good company.
Maybe it's the lighting from Rigel 7 that it doesn't like. I don't know.
That's it. It's that crazy asteroid thing, though. Spoiler alert. We'll get into that in a bit.
We will. All righty. I got my show notes up. I got my slides set here.
I got my cookies and milk.
I got my boots on.
And I've got this lamp in this chair. And
that's all you need.
That's all I need.
And this painting.
Come on, stupid. Yeah. And this paddleball game.
Yeah. And this pool table. Wait, what?
That's all I need. Are we ready?
We are ready.
Okay. Recording in 3, 2.
This is The Topic is Trek, episode 141 for Friday, July 14th, 2023. Coming up in this episode, Spock is running amok again. Brace yourself. It's time for San Diego Comic-Con, or is it? And we talk about another episode that's it kind of had a there was I can't remember. But all that right now on The Topic is Trek. Do you like me? Check yes or no. Welcome to The Topic is Trek, the podcast that runs on impulse power. Join us for a journey where no show has gone before. If it has to do with Star Trek, there's a good chance we'll talk about it sooner or later, because on this show, the topic is Trek. Engage already. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another thrill-packed edition of The Topic is Trek. I'm Clinton, one of your co-hosts. And, of course, to be a co-host, you have to have other co-hosts along with you. It just kind of mathematically works out that way. So, first off, beaming in to join me from parts unknown with the hip new catchphrase that you will be talking about tomorrow, Mr. Craig Stepp.
Good night, John Boy.
No. Try again.
You don't like that one?
No.
All right. That's the way they end all the episodes, right? You know, everybody's turning off their lights in their thing.
The hip new catchphrase from the Waltons. Yes. Okay. There we go.
Oh, wait. I know what it was. Good night, Lieutenant John Boy.
Oh, now it's much better. It's been updated. Reimagined.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
And also
Commodore Grandpa.
Apparently transmitting from parts unknown is Mr. Chuck Tomasi.
I feel like I should know what I'm doing here. It feels familiar, but I don't know who I am.
Yeah, I know I talk into this microphone, but I don't know why.
I am Chuck Tomasi. I fly this ship.
Yeah.
We're all gonna die.
You know, if you
Yeah.
posted it with your lighting on the video, this would have been the week to do your Baylock thing at the intro.
No, I feel like I look like I'm Boimler in mid transport.
Yeah. Bzz, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much. Thanks, StreamYards. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, before we begin our normal show, I wanted to mention that Manuel Cotto, known to Star Trek fans as Manny Cotto, has passed away at the age of 62. Yeah, Manny joined Star Trek Enterprise for its third season as a writer and co-executive producer, but it was his work as executive producer and showrunner for the fourth season of Enterprise that brought the most praise. He helped move the show forward, tying more into Trek lore, even including events that would lead to the foundation of the Federation. According to Deadline.com, Cotto died of pancreatic cancer. His family says Cotto had been fighting the disease for 13 months and passed away surrounded by loved ones. And everyone here at the Topic is Trek sends their condolences to Manny's friends and family.
Yes, we do. Stupid cancer.
Indeed. And yes, he definitely, say what you will about Enterprise, but that fourth season certainly was one that was steering things in a great direction. And I think he definitely had a vision for where that show was, needed to be headed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's right. Because that, I wasn't a huge fan of that big story arc leading up to season 4, and then season 4 was like get back on track, and I was really disappointed that we weren't going forward anymore after that. I know, like I'm not alone, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. All right, well, let's try to lighten the mood with this episode that I don't know if it's going to lighten the mood all that much, but
let's hope.
but we should first have our spoiler alert.
Oh, we have spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
Oh, my, he's forgotten.
Thanks, DJ Tomasi.
I know I should be able to know how to operate that control, but I don't. Anyway,
Wiki.
we're going to be
Intruder
talking.
alert.
We're going to be talking about the two most recent episodes of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds. Hence our spoiler alert. So if you haven't seen those episodes, pause, go watch the episodes, come back to the podcast. Amazingly enough, we'll still be here, unless you're watching us live, in which case we're not going to just pause ourselves for 2 hours. So you'll have to have seen it ahead of time. All right. Does that make any sense? No, but that's
You've
okay.
been warned.
You've been warned. That's right.
So, Craig, why don't you give us a little bit of background on this first episode?
All right. So this is obviously Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The title is Among the Lotus Eaters, written by Kirsten Beyer and Davy Perez. It is directed by Eduardo Sanchez. And the short synopsis is the Enterprise must return to the site of the disastrous mission. Pike confronts a ghost from his past, and both the landing party and the shipboard crew begin to slowly lose their memories.
Indeed.
Memories.
I wanted to mention that I have written an article about this episode, and it's posted over on the Topic is Trek.com. So you can check that out, because I take a deep dive into one aspect of this episode, and it was fun. It's the first time I've written a review for the site in a couple of years now. So that was a lot of fun to do. I know. Well, I'll be doing another one for the next episode as well. So I think I'm back on a roll.
Good thing you don't get paid by the article.
Yeah, good thing. But I guess the other good news is I'm not on strike. But anyway, and the other thing I want to cover before we actually get into the discussion of the episode itself is to maybe clear up some confusion that people have about the castle in this episode. Because some people say, oh, they changed the castle. The castle doesn't look the same at all. Well, it does and it doesn't, because the best example I could find is this is a screen capture, for those of you looking at the video, a screen capture that shows the large image is actually the VR wall, if
Mhm.
you will, that the
Mhm.
actors are sitting in the middle, standing in the middle of, which is like a black area that's in center of the shot, and you can see the castle that's being represented virtually, of course, in this shot. The section at the front near the wall is the same as the castle that we see in the episode The Cage. That tall tower sits further back away from the wall and goes up. So if you look at the scene in The Cage, the tower would be just off screen in that shot. So it actually is fairly close to what we saw in The Cage.
I thought they just built and expanded over the years.
Well, it's only been 5 years, so it's a lot of expanding to do in that amount of
Hey.
time. So just want to get that out of the way. All right.
I recognized the dome structure a little bit
Mhm.
more when they showed later in the show when the guy was showing him the totem. And I
Mhm.
did a freeze frame at the top. There's like a building. I went, that looks more like what I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it's a shame because a lot of the shots there's a lot of fog and so forth around it, and so you don't get to see the front part. You just really see the tower jetting up from it, and it does leave the impression that it's not even close to the
You,
same
you
thing.
can't always shoot your VR shots on a clear day.
No, it's a shame, but it's true.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's get into it. We're going to try to cover different aspects of this episode. And the first one I want to talk about is okay, we've got the relationship between Pike and Battelle, which hits some shaky ground right in the offset of this episode. And by episode's end, things seem on the mend.
Mhm.
But what did you guys think about this whole setup? You know, Pike having these issues, which to me somewhat seem justified, that he is kind of ruining her career by dragging her into the whole Una thing and you know
Mhm.
that type of stuff. Did you think maybe it was best that they do separate? Were you happy or sad to see them get back together again?
I thought it was a bit predictable that they're showing, hey, he's got a personal life and he's getting in a relationship, and then no, 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 better back off. And then of course Una confronts him and says, "You're doing that thing you do,"
Oh yeah.
and he says, "I do that? Do I?" So yeah, that was sort of a fun but a confrontational scene, uh, and I thought that was going to be it. So to see them getting back together at the end, I thought was a nice wrap up for the episode itself.
Mhm.
I still don't have a whole lot of faith that either of them are gonna be able to pull together a lasting relationship because of their careers, their focus on their careers, their dedication to
Yeah.
their ship and their crewmates. It's not like, "Hey, I'm gonna take 2 weeks off and see you on Starbase 8." You know, I don't think captains get shore leave for 2 weeks or 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I thought it was basically what Chuck just said. I like that they finally worked it out, or at least temporarily. But yeah, I don't see how. Well, as we'll see later, all this traveling around and being in Starfleet is an issue for lots of people's relationships. So I
Indeed.
can see it affecting him as well, or them, I should say.
Okay. And as we suspected all along, this was a revisit to Rigel 7. And we get more backstory on that first mission to Rigel 7 in this episode, which dovetails with what we see in The Cage. It
Mhm.
was supposed to be a routine investigation of a Class M planet. So we learned why they were going there, which we didn't know from The Cage, and that scans can't penetrate the atmosphere. So the landing party went in pretty much unprepared for what they were going to get. Apparently, they went in their uniforms. Now, I don't know if that meant that they didn't expect to find a civilization there at all, because they come across the Kalar and they're kind of surprised when they run across them. So, did you get the feeling that they were just figuring it was a planet with no intelligent life on it at that point?
Or they didn't have the first contact protocols, or it felt like it was a mistake, but you didn't really know if it was, an overt mistake, it was on purpose or an accident, or why, He just says, "We're not making the same mistake twice. We're definitely not going down there in uniform again."
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because now they know what to wear instead. But at that point, it seems like they didn't have any clue what does one wear to a Class M planet when one isn't sure that there's intelligent life there. I don't know.
Deer
Well,
skins and furs.
well, the original Kirk and Spock and everybody, they wore their uniforms down a lot.
Yes, they did.
Yeah, and that's after.
Yeah.
So why did they come back to Rigel 7 in uniform? Well, maybe the cat was out of the bag already.
Mm.
Grand Leader Vizier Zach, whatever his name was.
Well, so the original mission, they lost 3 crew members, so they thought, including Yeoman Nguyen, and 7 crew members were injured. And we find out that the reason that they left in such a hurry is that Spock was bleeding out and they had to get to the Vega colony to save him. And I made note of the fact that I know he's not consistent in it, but Leonard Nimoy said, I was told to limp in that episode of The Cage. So I did. And this is kind of like tying in. It's supposed to indicate that, yes, they had just, been to Rigel 7. They had, everyone had their wounds healed, and they were on another mission right after that.
Mhm.
And
So he's still healing.
yeah,
Is that what the idea was?
yeah.
Hmm.
And apparently they only spent 4 hours at Rigel 7. Now that surprised me, because to get into orbit, to assemble your landing party, to, beam down, have your encounter, so forth, retreat back to the ship and leave, that seems such a short amount of time. I guess it's workable. It just seems like everything had to happen like clockwork to do everything in 4
It
hours.
didn't surprise me at all. Because
Okay.
they said it was only going to take an hour, but you know how those timeshare seminars go. They turn it
Yeah.
into 4.
That's right.
They
Or
were
at
like,
least it
"Won't let
feels
me
like it.
leave." Yeah.
Or at least it feels like 4 hours.
"Would you like to buy some property on Rigel 7?
So thirsty.
You'll
Been
make
here
it
for
worth
hours.
your while."
Yeah.
But now we have a new mission to Rigel 7.
Yes.
Clean up
Because
the
Cell-
mats.
Yeah, satellites have observed a topiary Starfleet Delta within the walls of the castle. Looked
Hey,
very
it's
nice.
really hard to make those topiary delta shields.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that the ruling classes and so forth would have better things to do with their time than make topiary gardens, but I don't know.
Well, especially if you go outside. They're
Yeah.
outside the walls of the castle, which we learned is how they protected themselves. And, what are you going? Snip, snip, snip. What was I doing here? I'll go back inside, come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
It took the 5 years to make the thing.
I have the forgetting every time I get up. Yeah.
But that's another story.
I had the
Yeah.
forgetting after Dragon Con.
Yeah. Say, what am I doing here?
And
Oh,
don't
let's
ask
read the totem.
and don't ask a mother about her forgettings after childbirth, but that's another story altogether.
Right.
Ooh.
Yeah. Pike wants Ortegas, Noonien Singh, Lan, and Mbenga on the mission, but Mbenga is really not happy about being chosen. It's not like he doesn't want to go on a landing party. It's just that he felt, and rightly so, that he was chosen for his fighting skills, not his doctoring skills. Wouldn't you have security people that you could have fulfill that requirement instead of
Yes. Like the what was it? The Marines, whatever they were on Enterprise.
the Mako? Yeah.
The Mako. It's like that. They were
Mhm.
brought aboard for confrontational situations like this, so they could fight in place. You don't send your captain down to a planet of soldiers.
Wait a minute. Did y'all listen to the Trek Files recently?
I have-
Because that is exactly what they were talking about. It was the
Yeah.
memo about the Mako and all that stuff, and
Well,
how
great
that would-
minds think
how that
alike.
would change the dynamic. It would change the dynamic because they would insist that the captain wouldn't go down every time, and
Right.
they would go
right.
handle things. And
Right. Well, the Mako don't exist by this point. But
no, but I'm just saying that it's part of the discussion is that it was some of the things that they were thinking of, especially going into TNG. I just thought it was interesting that y'all brought it up. Exactly what they
And-
were saying.
right. And it wasn't like they couldn't accommodate 4 people because Ortegas has to stay behind. So you clearly were planning this mission for 4 people, bring somebody from security. I'm
Yeah.
assuming anyone from security should be trained somewhat in how to deal with this situation. I mean, of course, they're probably just drop and roll, but that's another story altogether. We won't get into that part of it. And we talked about Ortegas was going to be on this mission, but it turns out that she had to stay behind because Spock has discovered that the asteroid debris field that's around the planet, or the debris field around the planet, it's starting to fall towards the surface, and the Enterprise will have to be manually course corrected.
So there was a collision a few hundred years ago, but they start talking about thousands later in the episode.
Well, it's 2
struggle with
different things here. The one thing they talk about is that the impact of the asteroid on the surface was thousands of years ago. And then
Yet it's still smoking when they get down there, and there's no sign of erosion, even though there's lots of snow and whatnot going on.
I couldn't figure out if the smoldering was supposed to be from, one possibility is the smoldering could be from a heat vent caused by the collision. But it certainly is not.
There's the writer in Clinton.
But it's certainly not from a fire. There's no firewood around there's nothing to burn anymore.
Right.
Maybe it's radiation from it.
It was glowing blue.
And I don't know if you noticed this, but when the shuttle flies over, when it's going to make its landing, it flies directly over the castle, which is sitting at the base of that smoldering, whatever it was.
They won't see us.
Great place to build.
They won't see us right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're hidden.
We're from the north.
By the way, to correct something you said a minute ago, they did bring somebody from security.
Well, I mean, another person.
Lon is the chief security officer.
But I mean, another person, right? If you don't bring your doctor, to be, because they didn't know that they were going to run into trouble. And
he's a super soldier, though.
You could
actually. If you think about it, all 3 of them are high-ranking positions on the ship. They shouldn't. All 3 of them shouldn't be there.
Yeah, but what landing party ever didn't have that? I mean, away teams landing parties is just like, oh, the important people get to go, but we have to stay on the ship.
Keep your opinions to yourself, number 1.
Ortegas
going
was
down anyway.
Not happy about being left behind.
No.
She even had the hat and everything. The hat is supreme.
And she committed to the hat. She put the hat back on.
I actually feel bad for her. I like Ortega. I felt bad for her. She had to go back to slogging at her desk.
Yeah, but she was promised that the next mission was going to be, she'd be on the next one. So
this is one of the few times you hear a personal log from somebody else. It's not the captain's log. It's not first officer. There were a couple on Voyager, but this is well, is she an ensign yet? There's a whole lot of low-ranking people on the bridge all the time.
Who?
Oh, I'd have to call
Ortegas.
Ortegas
is a rank.
I think isn't she a lieutenant?
I don't know. But she opened up the show with her personal log.
Right. Yeah, you would have like supplemental logs. Yeah, I thought so. You would have logs occasionally from secondary, like you would have one from number 1, or you might have ones from some senior member of the staff doing their personal log, that type of thing.
We had Lon's a couple weeks ago, or for tomorrow.
Oh,
tomorrow and tomorrow.
We also heard skipping ahead a little bit, but in the next episode
we get Chapels.
Yeah.
So I think they're spreading that around, sharing the love on that one.
Yep.
So
we can open up our podcast with one of our personal logs in the future.
We certainly can. We certainly can. We'll talk about that offline.
This is our personal log.
All right. Well, let's get back to the mission, because they land on the planet and they get to the castle, or they're brought to the castle by the security guards who have phaser rifles, not just phasers, but phaser rifles. And they get to meet good old Zach. Zach is alive.
Hey, Well,
I'm
you look
so
well,
bad.
like you've been eating good.
Yeah. So, but Zach has kind of got kind of a Khan complex going here, because he was left
Wait a
behind
minute.
in
You mean a con like CON or KHAN?
KHAN because,
Oh,
Pike never came looking for him.
I think he's got Queen Elizabeth II's crown too, but I'm
Well,
not so sure about that.
that's a
We
different thing.
we've seen this before where Starfleet personnel were left on a planet and became all powerful. There was Lord Garth. There was what was the Nazi guy or the Roman guy? I'm trying to remember from
Right,
TOS.
but remember, because there's an article that I link at the end of these notes, there was an in Prodigy, Star Trek Prodigy, hashtag save Star Trek Prodigy. We had the episode with the people that were mimicking Star Trek because the crew member from the Enterprise had crashed there and did everything he possibly could not to interfere, to hide the shuttle, he did everything right, and Zach did everything wrong.
I did think after we kind of get the gist of what happened here by this point, I
Mhm.
started thinking, why did he have them make the Delta shield?
Well, he says he didn't. He didn't do it. He says that they had adopted it as his symbol, his crest, if you will. So that's why they were putting it every place. They viewed it as
Oh, I guess it
a
was on a
High Lord
shirt and stuff.
Zacharias's crest
hmm
to have that.
Okay, well, I guess it was on his shirt and stuff, so they have seen it. Okay,
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
all right.
Yeah, but he wants to see Pike suffer.
Well, he goes, well, I want to commission a 32-foot Delta shield. I want it on the roof so they can see it from space.
And then as soon as they see it, I'm going to say, yeah, rip it all out. Oh, that sounds
Yeah.
like a great idea.
Yeah.
Now, the weird thing is that, Zach says he wants to see Pike suffer. He never goes to see Pike
Right.
once. He doesn't go check on him the next day or, what happened to them or
Just like
anything.
Khan.
Hey, as soon as he goes out of the castle, where was I going again?
I know I was out here to see somebody. Oh, this
Well, he's-
stuff.
Something.
The crown is that stuff,
Oh, even I
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
back up
Milk
a
and
little
bread
bit.
from the yeah.
I gotta back up. When they landed the shuttle and they were walking towards the castle,
20 kilometers.
Pike makes a comment like, "We're gonna set up camp because it gets deadly cold here tonight." There were no hats, no gloves on any of them. Have any of you been in the cold climates before? The
And it's
hat
it-
is your number one way to stay warm, and yet now they're
well-
sleeping outside in a cage all night with no hats and no gloves, and clearly not dying.
Who had a hat? Who had a hat? Who had a hat?
Vegas had a hat.
Yeah, Ortega's had a hat. See?
All she had to do is
That's right.
line it with magnesite, and she'd be great.
By the way,
Um,
2 out of 3 out of the 3 people on this podcast have extensive background with cold weather.
That's right. So we know. Well, one
Not
thing I
me.
did note, I don't know if you guys picked up on it, but in the morning when we see them waking up in the cage,
They're on top
Um,
of the furs, not under
no-
the furs.
no. They CGI'd in their breath coming out of their mouths while they're talking.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
that's just sad.
they couldn't afford it.
Either
It was
that or
dry,
it was
stick 'em in the-
either that it was really cold in there. I mean, I don't know which, but that would have to be awful cold on a consistent basis for that to happen. So I think they
Yeah.
put that in after, just like they put in when La'an is struck by the knife. You get a little spurt of blood coming out.
Yeah, I
there.
saw that.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that looks
Now-
CG, I think, didn't it?
Now, what did you make of Zach overall? Because it seems to me at the end of this thing, he kind of, he's all, I can't go back. Look, I've armed the natives with, weapons and I've declared myself ruler. I can't possibly go back. And then he gets punched out by Pike and he goes, okay, I'll go back.
I thought he should have taken out a knife to himself or something. he kind of
I don't think he had the
He was
constitution to do that to himself.
Yeah, so I mean, he was definitely a paper tiger type of, character. He's ruling over them when
Listener Diane, why is he wearing a crown from Game of Thrones?
it's a great question. I don't know the
I
answer.
thought it was the one when you watch The Crown that gets built in the middle and in the beginning with that animation.
Never seen The
anywho.
Crown. Don't know. Yeah.
Okay.
Tumbleweed flying by.
I know what you're talking about. I haven't watched it though.
On this show, the topic is The Crown.
Well, let's
Zach's
move on.
Crown.
Let's move on before we forget to the forgetting and the Kalars.
Yeah.
We keep our prisoners outside in the cold in a cage.
I know.
Yeah,
Is that not
because
the worst?
apparently that keeps them safe.
They
from
weren't
wandering
hugging each
around.
other. Yeah, that's nice.
So
It
they
keeps them
all
forgetting
have
is what it was.
they all have huts, these big huts that you could just like put a door on or something, but instead we'll all have them sleep in a cage in the snow in front of the castle.
Have we heard about subdermal universal translators before?
You notice that, huh? I think
Yeah.
we have. I think they've been a thing before. How common and in what era?
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Because Spock and Kirk got the subdermal rubidium crystals so they could get transported out. The other one that I had a note on was after La'an gets her first, ear ringing session,
Yes.
and they start wandering off in the snow towards the castle. The music was very reminiscent of the old TOS confusion music. There was hints of that. So I was trying to pick up on musical notes through this episode, and that one jumped out at me. Like they're really doing some nice callbacks, but variations on the old themes.
Right. Both.
Yeah, I
this
noticed that in
episode and
the
next
in
one.
the next episode as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Hey, by the
definitely
way, don't you is it a little too on the nose that they're in a cage? A cage.
Well, and he says,
Oh,
and they call out the fact that they're in a cage.
if they forget, I don't understand how they even made this episode, because if they keep forgetting, how do they remember their lines?
Ooh. Well, we get an explanation from Luke about how the forgetting works, and we get some of it from Zach, but it still doesn't make sense to me. The whole structure of the civilization doesn't make any sense because, all right, you can say speech and so forth are long-term learnings, but that's if you can remember from the first day to the second day to the third day. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
it gets ingrained, but if you keep forgetting that it happened the day before, it never gets ingrained to be muscle memory.
Right. And yet Kirk can remember the thing around his neck was a gift that somebody gave him. It's
Well,
like,
Pike.
a Pike. Yeah. That's pretty short term there, buddy. Usually the long-term memories are the
Well-
ones that stick with
Well, they
you.
did say it was emotional. Emotional connection.
Right.
Have
And I
to
think
remember as well.
he's also grasping anything that he can latch onto that gives him something about his identity. And he notices this is something no one else seems to have. And so I think that starts to have meaning that he's concentrating on. It's like, I have this. So I can understand that, but
I think they were being pretty selective on what was remembered and what was forgotten.
yeah.
I think
it's
I need
nice
some
to-
clarification from Gary, by the way. He says it didn't seem very practical.
The
Talking about
cages?
forgetting? The what? Yeah, the cages. Huh.
or this whole, I think
We'll
maybe
get some
just the whole
clarification from him.
Okay.
forgetting.
Did anyone else notice the elephant in the room?
There was an elephant in the room.
There's an elephant.
There's an
All together now.
when Pike was on the Enterprise, he had his part on the left. When he was on the planet, the part was on the right. They changed his hairstyle while he was on
I
the
did
planet.
notice that. I did notice that, and I was trying to figure out.
Pike's Peak
they
moves
must-
in
they must have
mysterious
had to shoot it
ways.
backwards.
I have no idea. Why would you do that? I was like, hey, we're going to a landing party. Quick, redo your hair.
Yeah, they won't recognize you.
Yeah, it's true.
I'll look just like one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was
I'm
about, but I
surprised
did
Zach
notice
even
that as well.
recognized him with the part on the other side.
Yeah, watch Spock walk in the room. Where? Have you seen the captain? Oh, it's the part. You moved it.
All right.
Okay.
So we get
I
the
thought
we
it was
get the
funny.
we get the landing party. They get to they know roughly something about themselves. Like Pike knows that he has to like protect and these other people, and they came with him, and they're his friends, and Lon instinctively knows how to be stepping into the fight, and Mbenga instinctively knows how to try to treat wounds, that type of thing. And that mirrors what uh, Christine Chappell is saying on the ship is that I'll know how to do basic things, but I won't know why I know that. And I certainly won't be able to do any complicated surgeries.
Right.
To which Una replies, "What? Could you repeat that again?" You know,
Dumb
um,
it down a little for me.
Yeah.
so you're getting this sense that they see themselves for who they are, which then convinces Luke that he should help them because even Pike is surprised. Oh, really? You're going to change your mind that quickly about helping us? That seems a little odd. And he says, well,
hmm
this is what you know. This is your truth. You know,
This
we
is
have
your
to,
moment. Yep.
yeah, we have to act on that.
Before we
This is your
forget
moment.
it.
Shine.
Yeah. I don't know. What did you guys think of Luke?
I thought he was a nice, kind of, he befriended the strangers. He didn't know why. It was sort of an insight into who he really was because everybody was forgetting, but they knew who they were at the core. Like Mbenga wanted to help fix Lon, and Pike was naturally coming out as a leader. He wanted to fix his friend's memory so he could fix Lon. And this was a little hint at like what is Luke's real truth? Well, he
Mhm.
must be friendly to strangers.
Right. Right. Because, he steps right in first thing to push the guards aside and say, no, they had a very rough forgetting,
Yeah.
they'll
Yeah.
be
He
fine.
may have been a
Well,
leader
they,
at one point.
Mhm.
yeah, maybe, but obviously he needed to be there because to drive the story forward, because nobody, I mean, they wouldn't have answers. They'd be just walking around aimlessly on the
Well,
planet.
yeah, I mean, you can do it without that character. You do have to try to piece it together, and it
Mhm.
becomes a struggle, obviously, for them to do it, which would be an interesting take about they have to try to hold these pieces in their head as they try to piece this together and
Yeah,
get little bits of information. So, but that could take longer.
Yeah,
This,
you'd wind up with one of those time loop things where every night they go to bed and they write down a little bit more for
actually,
themselves in the morning.
you know what this reminded me of? The movie Memento.
mm,
Where he was he had short term memory problems and he was having to tattoo himself to remember everything, and then he would wake up. He'd have
Okay.
to reread the tattoos and stuff to remember where he left off. So
it's
it's exactly
51st.
some.
It's 51st dates with Luke. And,
Well, Luke got to cheat. He wrote his lines on his arm, so he could just
He
Yeah,
did.
that's right. He's like,
although
yeah,
he smudged a couple of them though. Yeah, because we find out that he has obliterated a couple of the tattoos, which he believes is his family. He can tell it was his family, and he says he doesn't want to know what happened. He'd much rather be oblivious
Right.
to it,
hmm
and he changes his mind in the end. They don't say exactly because Pike says you decided to stay. So I figured the scene we don't see is that he helps bring La'an into the castle. And instead of turning around and walking out, he decides to stay and get his memories back. And he's quite moved by them and says that I was wrong, and every of the field KLRs should have their memories restored to them. So definitely a good guy on the.
Mhm.
But
Yeah, he's all right.
meanwhile, back on the ship, we've got all sorts of things happening. We find out what Uhura has for breakfast
Yeah.
every morning, so that's a revelation. It's
Yeah.
oatmeal.
That's right.
Yeah, because the same thing is happening on the
Hey,
ship. That's
is it
happening
steel
on the
cut or is original? I'm not
She
sure.
didn't say that.
Instant. Replicate it.
Oh, I don't think
Replicate
so.
it.
I
Yeah.
don't think so.
Computer. Oatmeal. Hot.
Yeah.
Now, as everyone is
Steel
unraveling,
cut or original. No.
Una wants to keep the Enterprise close to Rigel 7 to assist the landing party, which is
Mhm.
instinctively the right move, but not really in this case. And Spock wants it moved away from the planet, but into the debris field, which is also not really the right move to make.
We'll be
No.
safer there.
And that's he deduces. This is the part that had me scratching my head. He said, obviously, when we got close to Rigel 7, this is when things started unraveling. So we should stay close. Move into the debris field. Wouldn't your first clue would be like, hey, take us out about 100 million miles and see if things clear up a bit? That
Well-
will at least unfog our heads.
I think the problem was that Una was so insistent on him staying close because he said he wanted to move the ship away, and she leans into him and says, "Keep us close. If this is what's happening to us, can you imagine what's happening to the landing party?" So he's now not in his full mind, and he's trying to justify, well, that's my superior officer, but I want to do this. So he's trying to figure out how to proceed, I think, at this point. And he decides, move into the debris field because there's some natural protection from radiation in there.
Maybe.
I think that's what they said, isn't it?
Yeah, he says that. That's why he's moving them
What-
there.
What radiation?
Well, he doesn't
From
know what
that asteroid.
radiation.
Okay.
Well, he doesn't
So-
know, but it's that asteroid that landed on the planet.
If you could detect radiation, then wouldn't you want to move away from it?
Because I think he did detect certain types of radiation in the
Strange
debris field.
energies. I'm just kidding.
But
Was-
no, not
Was the
strange energy.
memory loss radiation coming from the debris field, or was it coming from the asteroid on the planet?
Well, this is what I think. I think that the debris is from the collision of two bodies. Whether or not they were moons, I don't know. But that's not to say there weren't minor impacts which chipped off the piece that landed on the planet a few thousand years ago.
That's where the timeline falls apart. Because he said this happened a couple hundred years ago when these
Right, no,
collided. Yet
he's-
that
when they
asteroid on
collided-
the planet
no,
was
but-
1,000 years ago.
Right, but when they collided, right? So those things might have been farther out. And as I said, it might have been a minor impact. I'm not talking about the collision. I'm talking about a minor impact which flung off some pieces of whatever this large asteroid, planetoid, whatever the thing was. And that's what landed on Rigel 7. Then eventually bodies collided, which was the parts in the debris field.
Okay. So you're detecting this radiation, and from the maps we saw, a lot of it was on one side of the planet. I know we're playing armchair captain at this point.
No, because
Wouldn't you go to the other side of the planet at least to say, hey, the field is weaker over here?
Well-
we're close. We're still in orbit, but we're away from the nasty stuff.
Right, because Pike says that the collision wiped out half.
It should
The,
have wiped out half the planet, is what
yeah.
he and Mbega say.
Yeah.
But yet here they are. Where's Dr. Aaron when you need her?
Exactly. We'll try to get her. We have so many questions.
Put that one in our
That's right.
backlog. We're just gonna dominate her panel at Dragon Con. Yes, excuse
I
me.
got a question. Yeah.
Any other
Strange
question?
New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 4.
She just shakes her head and looks at somebody
Yeah.
else.
In episode 141, we were talking about this strange radiation.
Security.
You might all remember that. No one remembers that. All right. Well, eventually Ortegas doesn't remember how to fly the ship, and she leaves the bridge in a panic. And she
Yeah,
can't
I'm
even
outta
find
here.
her,
Having
Yeah.
a confused conversation with the computer.
right. She can't even
Yeah.
find her quarters. So it's like follow the blinking lights to get to your quarters. And then she's eventually told by the computer what her job is.
I thought that interaction or lack thereof with Christine in the hallway was a little weird.
It
If
was kinda
everybody's
like there was
walking around in
zombies.
walking around in a daze, when you go, hi, do you know where you're going? There'd be some sort of human interaction.
Right.
Even if you're totally blitzed out of your mind, you'd still, you're struggling to
excuse me.
connect with
I have a
something.
question. You mind? Can we talk for a second? Yeah.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
would you like
you
a
know, like
copy of the Watchtower? I don't know. You'd get something.
Right, and it could even be to the point where you just say, I think I know you, but I don't know you,
You
type
wouldn't
of
just give this weird
thing.
glance and walk off at a 90 degrees. I don't know.
Right.
yeah.
That one seemed a little off to me. But
It was also weird that it said follow the flashing lights. There's lights flashing behind her,
yeah,
and when she gets to her quarters, there are lights further down
everywhere.
the hall
Yeah.
that are flashing.
Unless they kinda converged on that
Perhaps.
panel across the hall, but I thought so too. We also noticed that they were yellow, so it was a yellow brick road.
Yeah.
Right.
But she keeps it in her head. Now, this I thought was very classic Trek. This is very Captain Kirk, just demanding to remember, I fly the ship. I fly the
Right.
ship, and getting, bursting onto the bridge and saying, I fly the ship.
The first couple of times the computer says affirmative, but then
Yeah.
the computer just gives up. I kept
Yeah.
doing it though. She's walking down the hall. She's on the turbo lift. I'm like, affirmative, affirmative, affirmative.
Yeah, affirmative.
Will you
right.
be quiet? You.
I want a shirt that says that. I fly the ship.
And we find out that Spock can't read his own pad. And I like the
Yeah, what was up with that?
there's a theory I heard about, which I thought, okay, this makes sense. If you'll recall on, I believe it was on Discovery, that it's revealed that Spock had dyslexia, and he may have forgotten how to deal with
Oh, that's right. They
dyslexia.
did have I remember that.
So he couldn't read it anymore.
That was subtle. Okay, I'll
Yeah, it was really subtle. It would be really subtle, but yeah, I totally forgot about. I didn't think about that until you just mentioned, but I do remember them talking about that in Discovery when we right around the first time we met Spock.
Mhm. All right. Do we have any more thoughts about
yes.
Among the Lotus Eaters? Go for it.
So Ortegas says, "I'm going to fly us out of here," and Spock says, "I believe you. You can do it." And she starts driving through the debris field, and on a
Literally
collision course with
through
one
the
of the
debris
big
field.
ones. And she says, "We're going to thread the needle." Does this fancy maneuver with the phasers and drives through the hole in the middle. I'm like, wait, what was that?
She made the needle.
Well, first the ship was rotating. And
Mhm.
the phasers were also rotating faster, like both of them, to cut this circular pattern of which the Enterprise is going to fly through the hole. I thought, that was a fundamental design flaw with the Enterprise and TOS, is that the phasers really only pointed down and straight.
Yeah, well, that's why they invented them phaser
Well, now they got the
strips,
budget for it.
Well, they were
Yeah, now they got the budget for it.
Well,
I
they
also
were
have a question. What was that?
committed to that.
What was that gesture when Mbenga finally healed Lon? She wakes
Ah.
up and they did that thing with the finger on the cheek.
Which they had done in the first episode as well.
Yeah, what's up with that?
What's up with that is
You have to ask them.
Gang
they-
sign?
Yeah, it's gang sign. No, both of the actors have been kind of coy about explaining that. So I've got a feeling it's something we're going to find out more about down the road.
They were in prison together? Well,
Actually-
they already did that on this episode.
Actually, I read that both the actors decided to do that on their own, and so it wasn't for the writers or anybody like that. So they,
It could be. It could be
forget-
one of those offstage things.
I forget. It was. That's what exactly he's saying is if you wanted to a reason behind it, what the meaning behind it is, you have to ask them.
Because I was listening to a recent episode of the Delta Flyers with Garrett Wong and
Mhm.
Robert Duncan McNeil. They're almost done with like season 7 and like 3 more episodes to go. But he was talking about Robbie was talking about Chakotay. Sorry. And
Beltran?
they would have these little gestures with like the coffee mug. And so say Robbie was off camera and what was that, Craig? Robert
Nothing.
Beltran was doing his part.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And Robbie would do some kind of gesture like, sip and smile or hoist the mug like a thing of ale. Or, he was
Cheers.
doing these things, yeah, to just sort of try to distract Robert Beltran from his part. Or so there's one episode towards the end, and Robert Beltran is about to take his cup, and he sort of, gives a little toast in the air, and it was completely innocuous. You wouldn't even have noticed if you didn't know what it means. But that was something that Robert Duncan McNeil brought out. He said, "This is something we would do off camera," and he was literally signaling me off camera with this mug, going, "Hey, I'm back at you, buddy. You can't get me every time. I've got the mug.
Right.
Here you go." So it might be something
No,
on that line.
I mean, it's possible. However, the way they were talking about it, I've got a feeling we're going to get more of a explanation of it. But they
Okay.
didn't. It's nothing they could talk about. Obviously, if it's something we haven't seen yet. So yeah, we'll revisit that and see. Diane, listener Diane has a question here. I'm not sure it's all going
Oh,
to show on the
yeah,
screen
she
at
said
once.
they don't have comm
Oh, just-
badges on their uniform, so they don't know who's who or where they are. So when Ortegas gets in the turbo lift, how did she know it was Ortegas and where Ortegas lives? That kind of stuff.
So my guess is you could
RFID
do
tag.
voice print. You could also do voice print. You recognize the voices on the ship.
This is Spock. No, it's you, Ortegas. Don't fool me.
Hi, I'm Ortegas. Where do I live at? Where's my quarters?
So
Yeah,
I
it's terrible,
don't
Ortegas.
don't have a great yeah, really. I don't have a good answer for that, but that'd be my first guess is since the computer is voice activated, that it would
Hey,
recognize
wait.
voices.
They got to grab the handles in these turbo lifts. So
She didn't have to this time.
fingerprints.
No, she didn't have to
No.
this time.
I think one
I
time they
do
did
like
get
that
in.
turbo lift. That turbo lift is a nice callback to the original with the handles and the flashy lights, the whole thing. I love it.
Actually, I was just thinking a moment ago how beautiful the whole ship's set is. All the hallways, the bridge. I love the way that they built out this whole thing.
It's modern, yet it has elements from TOS, like the big red block, the blinky light in the center of the console or right up front.
Some
Like,
things have
wow,
that have that 60s, 70s. Yeah, some of it that
Yep.
stuff has a 60s, 70s vibe to it, but it's modern. So anyway,
Yep.
we got to move along. We're
Yep.
running long again.
Okay. Any other thoughts though, before we wrap up this one?
Craig is watching the
I
clock?
don't have any thoughts. I don't remember a thing.
Okay.
Do what?
Then
Yeah.
we'll rate it on 1 to 10 memories then, because clearly we've got to see how many we've got. So we
Right.
will start with you, Chuck, this time.
I'm going to give it a 7.5. I thought there were a few holes in this. It was a fun story to go through, but I just kept scratching my head on a number of things going, well, that doesn't make sense. And figuring out the whole timeline of what crashed and what collided. It sent me into a tailspin too many times. No hats and gloves, and it's deadly cold out. Smart. It is.
Yeah.
But the general overall story of we have to clean up a cultural contamination thing, and oh my gosh, Zach is alive. I thought that was a fun ride to go on. So it's not a bunch of garbage. I'm trying to say this politely, but it did have some sufficient holes that left me wanting.
Mhm.
Okay. And what about you, Craig?
I'll give it a 7.5. I liked it a little bit more than Chuck did, but probably wasn't my favorite episode out of what we've seen so far. And not to say that it was, terrible by any means, but yeah, I kind of liked it. I like that the guy Zach kind of turned things in his favor a little bit, or tried to take advantage of the situation. So I thought it was all right. I like the idea of them trying to work hard at remembering what they forgot, and I thought that was an interesting aspect. So, yeah.
Okay. And I am going to rate it an 8. My second watching, and as I started to work on the article, I became much more fascinated with this whole concept of dealing with the memory loss in a different way that we don't normally see. Like it got
Yes.
into more of the nitty gritty of how that can they at least attempt to discuss how it functions and why it functions, and asking questions about, well, clearly you want your memory back. And what about somebody who doesn't want their memory back? So I think they had a nice twist on this thing. And I did think there were execution issues with it, but I'm going to give it 8 memories.
8 memories. All right.
All right. Now it's time for my least favorite part of the show, where I get to double check with Charlie to see if it's okay to start up with the subspace chatter. What do you say, Charlie?
You don't need all that subspace chatter.
Can always count on Charlie.
We're taking things out of order tonight.
Mm.
Now we get into the news.
That's right. Okay. And we're breaking up our 2 reviews rather than going back to back to back with those. All right. Let's start off at the beginning here. Now, all this is provisional. We'll explain why at the end of this. But San Diego Comic-Con is almost here, and Star Trek will be part of several panels and events. First up, Paramount Plus and Fandom, the wiki hosting service for the Trek fan database Memory Alpha, will host the annual Fandom Party on July 20th. Ooh, Moon Day. The party will include a Strange New Worlds area and will feature a variety of Star Trek themed activities and entertainment.
All right.
Greg?
And Paramount Plus will also have a booth on the show floor dedicated to Strange New Worlds. The booth will feature exclusive merchandise, photo opportunities, and more. So watch out for those pics showing up everywhere in your social media feeds. And in addition, Star Trek apparel licensee Hero Within will host a pop-up location outside the con called the Energize Lounge.
With a
Wonder
big
what that's
pink bunny
related
on
to.
a banging a drum.
That's the
that's it.
Energizer Lounge.
Yeah,
Oh, I
that'd be-
thought that's where you get in the booth and they make you a bunch of pain. That's the Agonizer Lounge.
yeah. No, you don't want that one. That's a pop-up one. Yeah. It will feature a Trek-themed coffee drinks and display of Star Trek merchandise.
And we've got another Star Trek anniversary year coming up. 2023 marks the 50th anniversary of Star Trek, the animated series. And Paramount Plus is getting ready to celebrate that milestone. Then I really have to do this.
Exactly, Eric's.
Yeah,
Very appropriate this time around.
indeed.
There will be an official panel about Star Trek animation on Friday, July 21st. This panel will discuss the history of Trek animation as well as the future of the franchise in this medium. It's unclear if Prodigy, hashtag save Prodigy, is that what we're using? Or bring
Hashtag
back
Save Star Trek Prodigy, yes.
Okay. If it would be part of the discussion. And finally, the main event, Star Trek Universe panel, will be Saturday, July 22nd at 1:30 p.m. and 3 p.m. Pacific time in the con's main hall, Hall H, the infamous Hall H I hear so much about. The 90-minute panel will feature exclusive content from Discovery, Lower Decks, and Strange New Worlds. While there's no mention of the upcoming Starfleet Academy series or Section 31 streaming movie event, don't give up hope. There are often surprise announcements at these panels, as we've all come to learn over the years. After all, this is where Strange New Worlds Lower Decks crossover was announced last year. Usually, if there are any trailers or clips shown at the panel, Paramount Plus releases them to everyone after the panel ends.
But
I'm
wait,
hoping that-
Yep, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I hope they're going to announce that Eric's is coming on Strange New Worlds.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
But in lieu of that,
Are you mumbling about?
well, we're talking
Your
about
future.
you. Come on now.
Yeah, your future.
Work with us, Eric's. All right, but wait, there's at least 3 more Trek and Trek-related panels at Comic-Con. Picard Season 3 showrunner Terry Matalas will be one of the guests at the annual Inside the Writers' Room Building a Better Future for Writers panel. Given the ongoing Writers Guild of America strike, this panel may be extra enlightening.
Yes.
Then there's You Can Call Me Bill, a discussion about William Shatner's career hosted by William Shatner. This discussion will be a tie-in to 2 of Bill's most recent adventures, his trip to space and Legion M's new documentary about him entitled You Can Call Me Bill.
And his
And-
big banner ad that's hanging in the Denver airport in Terminal
Indeed.
C.
And
right.
friend of the show, Larry Dr. Trek Nemechek, will moderate a sort of show and tell panel by members of the Picard creative team. Another friend of the show, Dr. Aaron McDonald, is scheduled to appear on the panel. Whew, I think that's all of it for Comic-Con. Next.
Yep. And in awards news, 3 Star Trek novels had been made into the finals, into the 2023 Scribe Awards. These awards
Crisis
honor,
on Centaurus.
yeah,
No?
these awards honor licensed works that tie in with other media such as television, movies, gaming, and or comic books. Among the finalists in the speculative category are Star Trek: The Original Series, Harm's Way by David Mack, and Star Trek: Strange New Worlds, The High Country by John Jackson Miller. In the young adults category, Star Trek has one nominee: Star Trek Prodigy: A Dangerous Trade by Cassandra Rose Clark. The winners will be announced at San Diego Comic-Con, as we mentioned in nauseum, on July 21st.
Good luck, everyone. Meanwhile, Star Trek Lower Decks has been nominated in the Best Streaming Animated Series or TV Movie category for the 2023 Hollywood Critics Association Awards. This is also the first year that anime has found its way into the category in a big way, with nominations for both Attack on Titan and My Hero Academia. Other nominees include Animaniacs, Harley Quinn, and Central Park.
And the Hollywood Critics Association has also announced their live action nominations, with Star Trek Picard picking up 6 nominations, including Patrick Stewart for Best Actor in a Streaming Drama Series. Both Jerry Ryan and Brent Spiner are nominated for Best Supporting Actor or Actress in a Streaming Drama Series. And Michelle Forbes is up for a Best Guest Actress in a Streaming Drama Series for her portrayal of Ro Laren.
Wow, very good.
And showrunner and executive producer Terry Matalas picked up 2 nominations for Best Writing and Best Directing in a Streaming Drama Series. Both are for the final episode of Picard. Now, no dates for the award presentation ceremony has yet been announced due to the ongoing Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA strikes. And this brings up the thing I wanted to say, the giant asterisk on Comic-Con is the talent probably is not going to be there promoting anything because they're not supposed to do that when they're on strike.
Yeah.
So we don't know how this is going to affect what happens at San Diego Comic-Con. It's going to be interesting to find out, but just letting you know that. Craig, you have another one here as well?
It's an opportunity, Quark. We could get this podcast into Comic-Con.
I think you're right.
Stupid niggas. All right, so yes, there is one more, or is it 2? I'm not sure. So the nominees for the 2023 Emmy Awards have been announced, and Star Trek Picard picked up 2 nominations, one for Outstanding Contemporary Makeup, non-prosthetic, and one for Outstanding Prosthetic Makeup. So they got it all wrapped up. So everyone at the Topic is Trek wishes all the Trek nominees the best of luck.
Absolutely. And in Vulcan, Alberta, Canada news.
Oh,
So the next time you visit Vulcan, Alberta, Canada, perhaps for Spock Days or Vulcan, expect things to go a bit faster. That's because Vulcan is on the list of 26 towns to benefit from a newly announced investment in high-speed internet. Exactly, Eric's. The $96 million Canadian investment will hook up over 10,000 homes to a high-speed connection. Technology and Innovations Minister Nate Glubish, I just read him, was quoted as saying, quote, improving access to high-speed internet is the key to unlocking the potential of these communities across Alberta. I'm happy to note that construction work has begun in some communities. I look forward to continuing work with the federal government to connect more communities until we achieve our goal of connecting every single Albertan to high-speed internet by 2027.
We'll get subspace communications here someday.
That's right.
Now, we covered a lot of stories, most of them about Comic-Con, but if you go to the show notes for episode 141 over at thetopicistrek.com, you'll get access to 51 additional stories broken up by movies and TV series and a whole bunch of other categories. Lots of things to cover there. A lot of it is about, oddly enough, Strange New Worlds, because we did all the Comic-Con stuff for you. Yeah. All right. And now my favorite part of the show. when I get to say, now that Subspace Chatter is over, goodbye, Charlie.
I want to stay.
Yes, exactly, Eric's. He's gone now.
I'm surprised Eric's is not on strike. He just
No,
keeps showing
well,
up in our show.
he's different. And that species is not, they never signed in to the union. So he's good to go.
Right.
All right, now it's time to head out on main mission part 2. And
Do we need a sound effect or anything?
sure, go for it.
Okay.
Sounds an awful lot like Eric's.
I was thinking the same thing. We have to
Yeah.
change. It's like a theremin. We're just playing over here.
All right, Chuck, why don't you give us the lowdown on this one?
All right. Strange New World Season 2, Episode 5 is called Charades, or as Picard would say, Charades. Written by
Charades.
Catherine Lynn and Henry Alonzo Myers, directed by Jordan Canning. And the synopsis reads, a shuttle accident leads to Spock's Vulcan DNA being removed by aliens, making him fully human and completely unprepared to face T'Pring's family, among many other things, during an important ceremonial dinner.
All right. So this thing starts off pretty straightforward. We've got this mission. Apparently there's this Kerkovian moon that's oddly somewhere near Vulcan, and you think the Vulcans would have been
Quick to
exploring the-
investigate this.
but,
Yeah.
I guess they're busy doing other things and whatnot. So the Enterprise is going to be
It's
Going
like
there
when you
together.
live near the Grand Canyon, you just don't visit that often.
yeah.
Yeah.
People in New York have never
We'll
been
get
to the
there one
top of the
day.
Empire State Building, that type of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But the other mission that's going on is it's a bit different because Spock finds out he must travel to Vulcan to perform the ritual Vishal dinner because T'Pring's mother feels that since Spock is in the neighborhood, now would be a good time to do that. Then there's the complication that we kind of mentioned. Approaching the anomaly, the shuttle is pulled inside of it, and when the shuttle reappears, Chapel is fine, but Spock is somehow human.
I knew this was. I knew that because the camera angle when he was laying on the bed did not show his head. I'm like, what happened to
He was
his
just
ear?
looking at his hands and
What happened
Yeah.
to his ears? He sits up and he goes, Spock, you're human. Like, surprise. So I didn't like the way they tried to reveal that.
Well, it's hard to do if you're going to do that reveal. I mean, your other way is to just like show him, over his shoulder or something. However you do
well, you
it.
can't. You can't even do that because
Well, you could, but
you have
over
to
the
see like
shoulder.
the edge of his shoulder.
Yeah. I mean, just kind of, or he's in a shadow or the profile is weird, but however you do it, it's always going to be, why are we not seeing all of
Yeah.
Spock? There's something weird
It's-
going on there.
Could have
Yeah.
been written a little differently, but his reaction was, it made up for it.
So the explanation of this is that the Kerkovians, they came across, well, actually they felt like they'd been bumped into so rudely by the shuttle, and there was this accident. So when that happens, they have to fix things up. So they fixed up Spock. Apparently Chapel was fine, and they just sent him away, and now they're done. There's no
Well,
need to
their
think about them
logic
anymore.
was, this one's
Yeah.
mixed up. He was kind of he had not conflicting, but he had mixed parts. Well, they said, well, if one is consistent and one is mixed up, we'll make the mixed up one consistent with the first one. So that's why he became human over
Some
Vulcan.
great smart logic there.
Yep. Well, that's what Yellow and Blue told us. So
This is
we gotta-
supposed to be their really deep medical database, and they
Yeah.
took a guess.
That's right.
Yeah, they can't recognize embedded DNA. Apparently, it's like
or races that combined, that maybe that didn't happen when they were still building their database.
well, maybe that never came up in their society. So they
I did like it when the I started to say Kevorkians, but that's not right.
No.
The Wackovians.
I like how they were like, oh, no
Kirkovanians.
thanks needed. All right, we'll see you later.
Right.
trying to
No
hang
further
up.
contact. Yeah, they got
Yep, they just hung up.
Yellow just ghost.
Oh no need to thank us. It's okay. Well, we'll talk to you later.
Right.
Yeah,
And
that was
so
funny.
our result is that we get Spock as a 16-year-old.
He eats a lot. I'm surprised he
Hey.
didn't sleep a lot too.
Let's take a moment and appreciate Ethan Peck
Absolutely.
making a human version of Spock,
Mhm.
As a
and
teenager.
his emotions range from subtle to outrageous, and I think he did such a great job. This is about as or right as good as or as good as the Spock Amok when him and
Mhm.
T'Pring switch places. It was like that. It was that good, I thought.
Right,
About the
because
only thing he didn't do is say, "I hate you, mom."
well,
No,
he did yell at her at
Right.
first.
he did.
Yes.
But then
And
he did a very human thing, and he said, "Hi, mom." You know,
yeah.
once he got that out, he was like
Off his hat.
chilled out. But he, yeah, but again, Ethan Peck nailed, I think, this whole episode.
And one thing
So-
we learned in here, which it ties in with canon, but we don't really find out what reopened the rift between Spock and Sarek. Because the last time we saw them, there wasn't any huge tension, which was on Discovery. And now it's gone back to Sarek wants nothing to do with Spock.
I have a feeling we'll hear more about that later. It was kind of a tease.
Possibly
Yeah.
so.
I'm gonna take the shuttle out for joyride. Woo! Come on, Chapel. Who wants to
But
go?
poor-
with
but
But
poor
wait a minute.
Chapel.
So if you think about it, when
Mhm.
am I right to remember that in TOS when Sarek and Amanda show up, that Spock and Sarek are not on good terms at that
That
point.
is correct. I'm saying that it ties
they-
in,
Yeah, we
but-
don't know what
but we don't
caused
know what
that.
caused that rift to reopen.
Yeah, I was just saying it kind of jobs with that. So yeah, I think it set that up.
Because like I said, they weren't like Spock and Sark were talking to each other in Discovery. It wasn't like, well,
No.
now I will stop speaking to you again type of thing. So
Right.
don't know
It
what
is only
happened.
logical.
You were saying poor Christine. She had a bad Monday.
She is put through the ringer in this episode, big time.
Wait, one second. Hold on one second before you move forward. Go back one more time.
You
One
love this
slide?
slide, don't you? You just love this slide.
When I love that whole interaction with Kirk.
With Sam, yeah.
Oh my god, with Sam Kirk.
Clean up
Oh
your
my
mess.
gosh.
Clean up your mess.
Yeah. Before you could tell he was annoyed by it when as a Vulcan and went and picked it up. I don't know why he was annoyed with it, but he picked it up and then the crumbs. And then this one, he not only was annoyed with it, but he
It escalated.
I
Ever
said
since,
I love
Yeah, and
that
Sa-
whole
Sam is like,
scene.
what, are you kidding? You're joking, right? No.
Mr.
Yeah.
Kirk,
And
clean
he's
up
like,
your
okay,
mess.
fine. Yeah, okay, I got it. I get it. Yeah, that was hilarious. I'm
All
sorry.
right. That's okay. We have to eventually talk about poor Christine, who has everything happen to her in this episode, and most of it is not good up to up to a point, because she has survivor's guilt because she is fine, and Spock is having all these problems. She feels like I shouldn't have even been on the shuttle. And Ben gets to say, well, if you weren't there, who knows, maybe he would have just died. She's rejected for the fellowship
With the
because
Vulcan Science Academy.
because she didn't mimic back just exactly word for word.
Well, it would have been nice if they had some standards and guidelines that she would have followed. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Apparently everybody knows this except her. Is this
Spock said something about it, didn't he?
Well, he says afterwards, they're jerks, but
Yeah.
Well, no, he
He's
said,
such a
I
jerk.
think somebody had mentioned that they needed to say it word for word.
Well, I don't remember that. I remember that you have Ortegas and I think Una and Uhura saying, well, if you're supposed to be studying for this Vulcan test, why aren't you studying with Spock, who's like a Vulcan? Well, there were
It's been a
problems.
little weird. It's complicated.
There's
Yeah.
been problems going on there.
Mhm.
But yeah, I mean, and then she can't find the solution to fix Spock, and she's gone through everything. You know,
Even
Mingus says,
even Mbenga's personal files of
yeah, well,
experimental.
I've got these other I've tried them already. They don't work.
I
Yeah.
found your pot stash.
It didn't work
Yeah.
either.
Hey, I also want to give some appreciation shout out to the I cannot pronounce his name, Dr. Mbega there. He has great mannerisms and facial expressions. I think
Yeah,
he
because a lot of the stuff that he does in these episodes, the last episode and this one, is a look that he
Mhm.
gives.
Yeah.
You know, a look when he's kind of questioning whether La'an is okay to travel. A look when they're in the elevator together. Chris, and Spock comes in. You know, he just gives these
he has his
little subtle
he has
looks.
that like, oh, that was awkward kind of
Yeah,
look on his face.
It's-
I just, anyway,
Spock
I
has
think
been
I
giving
think
some
he's
looks.
great.
And Spock has been giving some looks too. In the past episode, when he and Ortegas were sitting at the console, and he looks over like wide eyed, like seriously, he's
Yeah.
still a full Vulcan at that point, and he's given this, crazy eyed look. We're going there. We're doing what? And obviously in this episode, the expressions were priceless.
hmm and then Mom shows up.
Dun dun dun.
Yeah. Hey, I don't know if this
So-
is an emergency or not, but your mom's
Yeah,
here.
your mother's here. What? Mom, why are you here? Mom.
Yeah.
Told you not to show up
Comes
at
in
work.
wearing that stupid. He comes in wearing that stupid beanie.
Yeah. And Pike goes, I've got one just like it. What? There's no problem here.
Standard issue.
And you can just slowly see Amanda's face just go, this is not right.
What's up here?
This-
Wait, where were the hats on the cold planet in the last episode? If
That's
standard
right.
issue?
Spock had them all.
Spock had them all. Yeah, stupid Spock. Hey, when she tells him to take the hat off, I like how in the background you can see Pike just make a discreet exit.
Yeah,
Look,
it's like,
time to go.
peace out.
Yeah.
Good luck with that.
He did that several times in the episode. Pike did. He's like, and just kind of kept
Oh,
on
yeah,
walking.
when they were doing the tea
when-
ceremony and whatnot, he's
Yeah.
sitting in the back going, I'm just going to sit over here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He also does it at the very end when Spock is having his tirade in front of everybody. You can just see him. He's coming out with the hors d'oeuvres and he just
Yes.
makes a U-turn and heads back into the kitchen.
Fuck, what are you
Yeah.
doing?
So Amanda brings great news since things are so busy and Spock has had this injury. They're going to have the dinner ceremony on the Enterprise. Oh, good.
Yeah.
Because
That's the-
Enterprise.
That's the expression he
and-
had. He was like, "Oh, wonderful," whatever he said. Yeah,
Enterprise and
I'm
Surprise.
surprised.
And we get to find out all about this weird, this Vishal ritual thing. And it's such
yeah.
it's like a combination of Festivus with, because you've got this tea ceremony with this scalding
Mind
teapot,
meld with, yeah.
the mind meld. You've got the airing of grievances going on at one point.
Oh, I did make a note to myself, and you got a picture here for it. It's funny we have Star Trek with actual Spock ears.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
sure
yeah,
I'm sure those are right off of the makeup
absolutely.
shelf.
I laughed because I was like, "Wow, actually, the Spock ears are making
They didn't
an
have to-
appearance."
They didn't have to go very
Off of
far to
some-
make those up.
It'd be
Yeah.
hilarious to find out. Well, we actually had to make these up different because they don't look like the real ones. What? No, stop. No.
Yeah, glue
Yeah.
them on badly. I honestly
That'd be
thought we
funny if
would
they put
see
it on and
seams.
one fell off. I was ready for one to fall off at some point.
When she
Yeah.
gave him the injection and said your Vulcan physical features will come back later, like whoop, whoop,
Yeah.
Stop pushing them off.
rubber,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
like
They're
baby teeth
they're
coming
hanging on the
out.
tips of his ears. Yeah.
Anyway, where were we?
Well, we're at the actual ceremony because we have
Yeah,
this whole section where do I have a slide for this?
what's
no.
up with April? Do you think she was just really proud, or was she racist, or
I
was
think-
she just
I th-
what is wrong with her?
I think that she is very upset that this whole business with bringing humans into this, and she's looking for a way out, but she
Oh.
can't manufacture
Wait a minute.
a
You're
way
talking
out.
about Capriel, her
Her
mother.
His mother, right?
Spock's future
Right.
mother-in-law.
Oh,
so-
she is a controller. She is a super controller. Savette was like, oh yeah,
Everything was
absolutely, you're
wrong.
right.
There's
You know, everything
too
he
much
said.
salt in these treats. It was just
Yeah.
everything was wrong to
She
her.
was
Right.
she hated it all, and she was a controlling Vulcan. Yeah, so
However,
she-
I made note of
yeah.
one thing. While she was doing her thing about it's the ritual of awareness, not the airing of grievances, but
I
same
like
thing,
hearing of grievances better.
they
Stick
just
with
didn't
that.
have the poll. That's the only thing they
Because-
didn't have.
because she says in that everything that is true about Spock's situation at that point going into TOS. She says you turn your back on your planet, your people, your family. Well, and while any Vulcan man would gladly stand by to Pring's side, you abandoned her for months, which is a foreshadowing of Amok time.
Yep.
Right. And then she says you disrespect your family name, choosing Starfleet over all else. Big issue. And your father is correct to shut you out. It is only logical to conclude that you have failed him as a son and as a Vulcan. And it's like all this stuff is like, it's all true. This is kind of Spock's situation. And it's like, if he didn't know before, he knows it now. And that's what it is. So I thought that was odd that all these things that she's saying hit Spock really hard, but it's also reality for Spock.
Let me ask you, when you were 16 and somebody were to say words like this to you, what was your reaction? Was it to get
Go to
angry?
bed, old man.
Or was it to blow it off and go, I've heard this crap before.
I think that'd be more the case.
Okay, Grandma, let's get to
Yeah.
bed.
So he says, "Excuse me, I have to go to the bathroom." He gets up and does that crazy air punch dance thing, which
Yeah.
I was laughing at that scene immensely, and then yells into his shirt.
I know. Oh my gosh.
And
I
Vulcan
could-
should have
I
better
could not
bladder
con-
control, by the way.
I could
so-
not. Yeah, I could not control myself when he went in the bathroom. He was yelling
Punching
without
his-
yelling.
Screaming into the towel. Screaming into the
Yeah.
towel was great too.
But would you have gotten angry, or would you just sat there going, "You're blowing hot air. Keep at it, lady. I don't like you anyway." I think at 14 or 12, I might have got angry or even broke down in tears. But at 16, I had reached that point where if somebody attacked me like that, I just would have gone, "You're so full of crap. I don't even care what you think."
Well, it's kind of tough because you're being attacked, but you're also being attacked basically in front of your girlfriend. Right?
Okay, you're right there. That changes the
Fiancé.
landscape a bit.
Fiance, not just
Well,
girlfriend.
Yes,
either
exactly.
way.
But I'm kind of like, putting it at 16.
I didn't have a fiance at 16. Mentally, he's 16.
I know.
Right.
I'm just saying he's got a lot of stakes, and part of that,
Wait,
is,
I
I mean,
didn't
it
have a
ups it
girlfriend
because
at
he's got a
16.
fiance.
I didn't have a girlfriend at 16 either. I'll be honest.
And another thing we find out.
I found
while we're
that
doing
Believable.
the talk about. Yeah. Well, let's move on from that, shall we?
I made up for it in later life.
That's another story for another show.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's our
That's a-
Technorama after show.
That's after dark. But anyway, we find out that Amanda has learned a very
Oh.
important lesson while she's on Vulcan, which is to basically hide her pain.
Oh yes,
Yeah, she
can
did the
pick
whole-
up the hot
Mem-
teapot. The
You know what that
Qui-Gon
reminded me of?
Kane.
Remember Kung Fu? He picked
Kung
up
Fu,
the pot.
Qui-Gon Kane. Pick up.
Well,
He-
it wasn't just about picking up the teapot. It was
Yeah.
basically her making a comment going, I have suffered endlessly on
Yes.
this planet, insults, rejections. You just learn to hide it.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
it's not
That was,
there.
that was pretty profound.
Meanwhile,
Yeah.
poor
Well-
Christine.
Oh,
Yep, go
hey,
ahead.
By the way, I was going to say that throughout this episode, they did flesh out Spock and Amanda's
Mhm.
mother-son relationship really well, and it reminded me of some of the shades we saw in Star Trek 2009, the Kelvin verse
Right.
one, where they showed some tender moments with him and her mom a little bit, and showed their relationship a little bit there too. think it's
And I
really
think
good. Pretty cool.
it was interesting to kind of get to that point by having him have emotions and then
Mhm.
kind of see that what was happening to Spock right there was the stuff that happened to Amanda every single day, and
Yeah.
not being a Vulcan who just like essentially blow it off, being human,
Yeah.
he's going, "Oh my God, you've lived with this every day of you've been on Vulcan, haven't you?"
Yeah. He actually
know?
empathized more with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got to get back to poor Christine Chapel because she is now visit the Krakowians, and of course she gets a different operator.
Well,
Sh-
who approved the ladies' joyride
Nobody,
shuttle?
nobody.
Okay, how did that happen? Unauthorized shuttle launch don't usually get called back or tractor
Well,
beamed or something?
you would think. You would think. I don't know. I mean, I admit that I had problems with it, but I'm thinking, how many times has somebody just kind of like taken a shuttle and you're not even sure if they've ever gotten permission to do it? So it's like,
Well,
So
I
they
don't
end up
well,
know.
just a couple episodes back, Spock and everybody stole the whole ship. So
That's right. And Mike never mentions
And the
it again.
shuttles.
So there we
yeah,
go.
and the
get
shuttles
into
that were in the ship. So
they end up in this interdimensional space, and she says, "Are you yellow?" And the being says, "Who you calling yellow?
Yeah,
I'm
she's
blue."
dabba-dee, dabba-die. And basically she gives the entity blue gives the same response that, well, and also adds now that it's essentially past the warranty period.
It's been remediated. Not just the warranty period, past the
Hey,
you
I'm
can't file a complaint period.
Hmm.
yeah, where was that date ever given? They say, okay, you got 30 days.
Well, they didn't maybe it was on that disc, the disc that they found in the
It's some
show. Maybe
Hey,
that's what that disc was. That
Oh,
was
time
your
time
your
and
10
space.
hour warranty card
Time
was
and
there.
space
10
work
hour.
differently for them, so who knows how long it really
Hey,
was.
did y'all watch the Ready Room?
Yes.
No.
All right. Jess Bush was on there and she was talking about doing this whole scene with everybody. And this is the volume room that they have with they have mirrored floor. And she said that it was very disorienting because if you look at the background and then of course it's on a mirror too at the floor and it's moving around, she said that it would make them nauseous from
Because
being in there.
there was no place to focus
No point
your
of
eyes that
reference.
wasn't moving. And they said that even the marks on the floor were done with like this black marker on a mirrored surface, and it would rub off, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. So it took a lot. I think they said they were in there for 15 hours or something like that.
Yeah.
But yet
It was-
Ortega
Yeah.
at one point ducks under yellow while the blob is moving around in the space. I thought that was pretty creative. I thought that was cool.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
And
So
they're
she
Oh,
is, go ahead.
and Ortega's and Uhura's facial expressions, they were, when they were like, yeah, right.
really, really.
Well, right. They're telling her like, you don't see this in front of you. She has to come to grips with her feelings for Spock. But she's
Mhm.
just like, oh, he's a friend. Like, yeah, no, come
Yeah.
on, admit it.
Yeah.
And
If you have-
even so, she
It's-
makes them turn around again when she goes back to talking to Yellow. It's like,
Yeah,
no,
because
turn around.
that's privacy.
Yeah. Turn around.
The
Yeah. Don't listen. Turn around.
but it also means that she likes the new all-human Spock.
She does, but it's not Spock.
It's not him. So
Right.
she has to like make it's almost like
She
she
has
has
to do
to
that.
push him away to save him because she feels so strongly for him that she wants the real him that she can't have versus this nicer version that she could have. It's like that was a
Yeah.
tough conflict.
They had a night.
Right, because
Yeah. They had a good human reaction in the hallway when Spock made the joke about this. What did he say? What was the joke about sleeping?
no, I think he said something about I don't cry. I don't
Oh,
cry
yeah,
every
I
time
cry
I'm in the shower.
Only when
I know
Yeah. That's it. Sure.
I didn't cry in the shower this time. Like,
Yeah.
all right.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, but we talk about this emotional price because she has the cure for Spock, and she comes in, and by this point you can tell T'Pring has pretty much caught on that something is amiss here because she's tracking Chapel across the room.
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here? And so we have the scene where the two of them have a conversation, and just as Spock is about to admit something, boom,
Yeah.
she gives him the cure so that he's just back to being a Vulcan,
hmm
which was, a tough thing to do.
Yep.
And, she realized she had to do it. So we have a couple of wrap up scenes that happen after that. One is that, where am I here?
Christine's talking to the Vulcan, whatever he is, the guy at the Science Academy. It says, "Yeah, we reviewed your work and it's just not up to snuff." And she says, "Well, listen to me, Pally. Here's what I did in the
Yeah.
last 24 hours, and you're not ready for me. So stick that in your ear."
Right. We also
Your
find
pointy
out
ear.
Hey,
also
I
find
wasn't
out-
going to be racist, Craig.
that T'Pring said, "You didn't trust me. You trusted everyone else on this ship with your secret, and you didn't trust me.
I
even
thought
though
that
I've
was a
told you."
great outcome. That was a
Right.
great
Mhm.
outcome.
Because she says, "Even though I've told you, I accept you for who you are." And he's saying, "I'm sorry." And she says, I think we need time apart.
Yep. I thought I'm with you, Chuck. I thought that her reflection on that whole thing was spot on, and it really uh shone a light on where they should be going because she realized that, hey, you trusted everybody but me, which
Yeah.
you look back at some of the
That's
adventures
all
that
we've
they've
been
had
through.
together.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
fantastic.
we have a tender moment of a goodbye moment at the transporter pad
Don't
between
diss my
Spock and
mom.
Amanda.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because he just had let loose, as we said, on T'Pring's mother,
Correct.
because he was a human doing this thing, and she has more basically she has more compassion and a little finger than all Vulcan, blah blah blah. And he really, we get this new bond between Spock and Amanda as a result of this. And yeah, to your point too, Craig, that I think this kind of carries forward because that's what we see in TOS is that there's no question about the bond between Spock
Mhm.
and Amanda, and there's also no question about there's tension between Spock and Sarek at this point.
Yeah.
So
Well,
how we came upon
and
that
also that
revelation.
this moment too, where he kind of stood up for Amanda, was
Mhm.
also like in the 2009 Star Trek, where he told the Vulcan Academy what to go do with themselves.
Yeah,
Pretty
basically,
much.
live long and prosper.
Yeah. That's right.
And
So-
finally, the last thing we get is
Dun, dun, dun.
Go Kiss. Exactly, Eric's. So
He's working on it. It was close.
this complicates things. I would say we have complications in the fact that it's T'Pring is not engaged to Spock,
Right.
even though they're spending time apart.
Betrothed still.
Right. We also, I know part of this is bumping into canon. It's like, okay, we've now really slammed hard into canon at this point because now they're in a relationship. Aside from the fact that Christine knows who T'Pring is, but that's, we kind of already sailed on that one. But
Yeah.
so it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Does this lead to a resolution that gets us to TOS and the situation there?
I can see in the next episode, T'Pring shows up. Look, Spock, maybe we were a little harsh. Maybe we can work it out.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to move in with you now.
There's complications and I
Woo.
can't possibly.
I'm going to lock myself in the transporter. Y'all have a good day.
I'm going to go see the Kevorkians now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, Spock needs to see the.
That's the Kirkovians, I tell you. The Kirkovians.
No, I'm seeking the Kevorkians.
Oh
Get
my.
out of this
Yeah.
relationship.
That's right.
All right. It is time now to vote on this one. I'm going to say we're going to do it on 1 out of 10 Vulcan teapots because they're hot.
Oh, for some Vulcan ears.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, teapot.
I am going to rate this one. I'm going to rate this one, and a lot of this hinges on Ethan Peck. I'm going to give this one a 9, and a lot of it, I think that there's good points in here. I think some things were a bit underdeveloped. I felt like getting to the Kirkovians in that conversation, we could have spent a little bit more time there. I think that it's, I just felt like she admitted what she had to admit a little fast. Like she should have even been more reluctant to admit it in front of other people. So I think that some things were rushed, but overall, the things that happened, the revelations that Spock has about Amanda, the performance by Ethan Peck, I just felt like there were a lot of good things in here to overcome some of the bad. So 9 Vulcan teapots for me, and I think we go next to Craig. I
Yep.
think.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm also going to give it a 9 because I think Ethan Peck really stole the show. Not only that, but T'Pring and the interaction with her parents was for all intents and purposes. I know they're all Vulcans, but it was very human like irritation and
Mhm.
interaction, like a daughter and her mother kind of thing. And then the dad. Oh my
I don't
God.
think that was dad. I
was-
think that was like mom's manservant.
I had the
Savette?
feeling it was
Is it
dad
not?
because she said her parents.
Oh, I thought it was just mom is coming over.
No,
Okay.
it's parents. Although I don't think we ever got a name for the
Oh,
father.
he was a
He's-
longtime associate of Sarx and the father
Yeah.
of T'Pring. So there
Oh,
you go.
okay. Okay. Well,
Right
he
there.
definitely was
Yeah.
a lot more complimentary. Like, hey, these treats aren't so bad.
Ah, they got too much salt. Put
Oh,
it back,
yeah.
Sal.
That's what I'm saying. And then he was like, "Yeah, you're right. I didn't notice." I'm like, what kind of Vulcan are you?" Anyway, so the whole thing I think was fantastic. I'm totally giving it a high 9 for sure.
Okay.
He must be living miserable because he clearly doesn't have happy wife, happy life.
I mean, I was laughing. I was concerned about where things were going, and there was, Christine was trying to make Spock right because she didn't like him, and anyway. So, I mean, she liked him and wanted him to be whole again. The whole thing, I think, top down. I think this is a great episode.
All right. And what about you, Chuck?
I wrote down a number prior to us talking about this, and I also rate this a 9. So this is
Okay.
just riding the coattails, but I share all the same sentiments. Love the laughter. It's fun to see them do some fun every once in a while. They're batting what about half the shows now? Like we go from serious topic to wow, that was fun. So 9 for the 9 teapots. Don't mess with your microphone on the air, Craig.
No, I was just Spock doing this.
Professional. Oh, he's doing the Spock
Yeah,
mad dance in the
frustrated- yeah,
bathroom, and he hit his microphone.
Is that the Spock dance we got to do at the at Dragon
that
Con?
is absolutely.
You're gonna hurt somebody with that thing. Probably yourself.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap this up.
All right. Well, it's time to refill the dilithium chamber and try to warp on out of here. You can find me, Clinton, at Comedy Forecast, all one word with the number 4.com. And you can also find me on all the social medias. Just logged into Threads, and there's another one every day. So look for me in all those places.
Check out those
same names
threads,
everywhere
man.
else. Yeah.
Who speaks for you guys?
Neither of us.
Oh, okay. They forgot.
Maybe we should roll. Maybe we should roll before the show. Anyway, so I'll do it. So anyway, just go to Google and search for Technorama Podcast. You'll find our long-running podcast over there. By long-running, I mean 18 years, bro. Clint's right there too. So go find us. Search for Technorama Podcast, and you can get us pretty much at anywhere that you get your own podcast from.
Alrighty. But now hit the theme, boys.
Right there.
If you like the show, please be sure to tell a friend about it and subscribe so you never miss an episode. We'd love to hear from you. Follow us on Twitter at The Topic is Trek. Visit our Facebook page or visit thetopicistrek.com. Until next time, on behalf of Chuck, Craig, and myself, I'm Clinton, thanking you for listening. And as we always say here on The Topic is Trek, don't
Don't
put
put
on
on
the
the red
The red
shirt.
shirt, at least the long sleeve one.
To the Spock dance. Woo!
No further contact is necessary.
Alrighty then.
Yes, you can do the Spock dance
Hey,
to our
when-
big drumming thing at the end. Boom, boom. That's what he was doing. Bum,
At
bum,
the-
bum, 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 bum.
Hey, at the dinner when Spock finally took the ear off,
Mhm.
I was part of me. I know it wasn't going to happen. Part of me, I was just wishing he would just throw it at T'Pring.
I thought,
Suck it, lady.
I bet you Ethan Peck was thinking, yeah, if only it was this easy to take them off every night in the trailer. Just go pink and they're off.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what's his name? Sevet was not a strong Vulcan like any other male Vulcans we've seen.
No, I mean, yeah, basically it was everything. He liked everything until he was told he didn't like it.
Yeah. And actually, he had a little bit of a personality. Was coming out. Oh, these are quite good. Yes, I'd love to have some of that. You know, or,
Yeah. Do you have any left over? Yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
I do.
yep, got you covered. Got you covered.
Alrighty. We're looking at 2 weeks. And in 2
Oh.
weeks, we
In
will
1
be.
week I am traveling, so that's no good. 2 weeks will be the 27th.
Mhm.
Wide
That
open.
should be fine
Once
for
again,
me.
the one time in about the last 6 months we're not recording a podcast on a Thursday next week. And the Phoenix podcast meetup, and I've got I'll be flying to Michigan
Oh.
On the 27th.
on the 20th. Next
So
week.
that-
Next week when we're not recording, it's like, yay, we're not
Oh,
recording.
yeah.
I'm going to Phoenix to the podcast meetup. Nope.
So I think I'm taking a guess that unless something really major comes out, I'm going to skip news our next episode because
Yeah.
it will include the crossover episode. Is going to be the day we record.
Is
I
it
got a feeling
really?
it's going to be. Yeah, I got a feeling there's going to be a lot of things to discuss there.
Okay.
Um,
That's fine.
And-
I mean, actually, to be honest with you, I know we kind of buzzed through it kind of quick, but man, that show went long. Again, you know.
yeah, I mean, we seem to be like hitting an hour and a half these days.
Mhm.
I know,
Well, we have a lot to say about these episodes.
right? I don't know what.
Yeah, it's
Like,
2 for
the-
1. I mean, if we had broke those apart, it would, say, hey, 45 minutes per show. You get 2 for the price of
Now-
1.
Now, I know we haven't finished season 2,
Mm-hmm.
but from what we've seen of Strange New Worlds up today, are you enjoying this more or less than like Discovery?
Don't make me
Oh.
choose between my children.
Yeah. I definitely would choose Discovery over. Yeah.
This tripe.
Yeah. This common this entertainment for the common masses that
Yeah.
they're putting at us every week. Yeah.
I was watching. I finished the episode today, and I'm thinking, my God, this whole series so far has been more rewarding to watch than. Now, I like a lot of stuff in Discovery, but I don't know, just didn't work. I think
well,
I picked this one over.
I always say it's wasted potential. You have a cast that's more than capable of doing other
Yep.
things,
Oh yeah,
and you're not,
Mhm.
you're not giving them the material to work with.
Yep.
But it's time for us to end the broadcast.
All righty.
all right.
Ending broadcast. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.
Live long and
Bye, see you
perspire.
later. What? Why am I turning my hand that way?